From brown to orange to the latest printer from Phrozen. It is fluorescent green but looks more like yellow to me. And we shall see what is the deal with Sonic Mini 8K-S. First, let's have a quick look on the difference of both printer. Start with the build plate. Mini 8K, this is the build plate. Mini 8K-S also has the same edge surface with an additional groove for the grip here. Mini 8K has dual rail and Mini 8K-S has single rail, but it is much wider. This is the size for Mini 8K rail. It is about 15 millimeters. And this is for Mini 8K-S. It is about 20 millimeters. Personally, I am not a fan of printer with single rail, considering my experience with the Sonic Mini 4K and the wobble issue, but this rail is wider compared to the usual rail, and we shall see the result on my stability torture test later. Mini 8K resin tank. It has the 4 feet, and Mini 8K-S pretty much the same with Mini 8K resin tank. And this has really caught my attention. The thumb screw for Mini 8K on the right, and on the left is Mini 8K-S, and Mini 8K-S thumb screw feels like a cheaper plastic. But it's not really an important issue, but I just want to mention it. And Mini 8K, USB port is at the front, and Mini 8K-S, the USB port is at the side here. I really wish Phrozen would come out a printer that has both the port and the power button is at the front of the printer. Now, this is my personal opinion. The whole Z-Tower build, even though it has single rail, it seems a very robust and strong build compared to Mini 4K, and seems like it is on par with Mini 8K for the Z-Tower build. Maybe because the illusion of these 4 big bolts here. On Mini 8K, the homing sensor is here. This is the trigger, and on Mini 8K-S, the sensor is over here, and this is the trigger. So it is made from metal, so hopefully it doesn't suffer breaking like the old Mini 4K. And for the side of the printer, this is Mini 8K. It has the grill here, and on Mini 8K-S, nothing. And this is the back of the printer. Both has the same placement for the power button. Mini 8K has this fan here, and nothing on Mini 8K-S. And for the bottom of the printer, Mini 8K has lots of these fan holes, and on Mini 8K-S only this grill. Now, both printer has the same user interface, but the difference is no sound at all. And on Mini 8K-S, it has a beeping sound, but if you find it annoying, you could turn off the beeping sound here. Now, this may not be a very accurate comparison because the Mini 8K is older compared to the Mini 8K-S, but I want to check the difference for the UV light intensity. First, on Mini 8K, and next on Mini 8K-S, the UV light intensity is very high, about 3.5, almost twice of my Mini 8K, which is quite old compared to the Mini 8K-S. So if you have a relative new Mini 8K and you have this Chi2Box UV light meter, would you mind to measure your UV light intensity and let me know in the comment section. I'm curious how well each color of this cover can perform to block UV light. But please keep in mind, the cover is designed to prevent ambient UV light to enter the printer and cause the resin in your resin tank to be cured. And ambient UV light definitely is not as strong as this UV torch that I'm going to use to compare how well each color perform to block UV light. First test the brown cover. It blocks about half of the UV light from this UV torch. And then next the orange cover. Wait. Okay, it can block 100% of the UV light from this UV torch. This is unexpected. Now let's see the yellow or the fluorescent green cover. And this is the fluorescent green cover. Whoa, it performed very well. It also blocked 100% of the UV light from this torch. Here for comparison again. Okay, it performed very good and totally unexpected. Additional info for comparing Mini 8K-S and Sonic Mini 8K. Sonic Mini 8K-S, the Z height is 1 cm shorter compared to Sonic Mini 8K for the build size. Now let us focus with the build of this printer. The build plate, it sits very nice. And if you're having difficulties when leveling this kind of build plate from Mini 8K or Mini 8K-S, you could check my previous video on tips for how leveling your build plate. And for the resin tank, same as Mini 8K. And there's a protective film for the screen here. And just an idea, you could use this as screen guard. You can carefully peel off this part here and leave the protective film to act as the screen guard, and it works very well because I use the same screen guard on my old Mini 8K. And the platform here is made of metal and the body casing is from plastic. For the user interface, I will turn off the beeping first because it's quite annoying in the video. Tools, Z control, same with Mini 8K. LCD tests, the VAT cleaning, Z calibration. Yes, all pretty much the same. Language, printer info. It's the middle of the night because there's no fan, there's no noise at all. And I can even hear the peeling and only the humming from the stepper motor. And now for the light uniformity. 2.8, 2.8, 3.2, same. So it's average from 3.2 to 3.3 to 2.7. Not bad. I think it is much better in terms of light uniformity compared to the original Mini 8K. And now for the dial indicator test, I'm going to press up 3 times and then press down 3 times. It returns to 0. Very good. Now I'm going to pull it side by side and you could see the indicator is moving, and this is typical of printer with single rail. Hopefully there is no wobble issue, and we can only tell after I done the stability torture test. Okay, this is interesting because the beeping sound from the homing sensor is very different. Listen to it. See, the sound is very different now compared to previous Phrozen printer. Let's have a look at the inside. First, this is Mini 8K. The board is G2 system. And this is Mini 8K-S. The light source seems pretty much the same. And turns out Mini 8K-S has a fan here, so this means it is a very quiet fan. And the main board is Phrozen 718K V1. So it seems Phrozen make their own main board now. No wonder the format is now PRZ on Mini 8K-S. And Phrozen told me this is a self-developed open format and it has better compatibility with other slicer and easier for Phrozen to make changes or custom according to customer needs. Leveling tester is done, bottom exposure is at 10 seconds and all sticks very well. The print time showed that it is finished, but the progress bar still at 79%. So that means I have to set the print time compensation in the slicer. I'm still calibrating the exposure and I found something very amazing. If you peek inside, you could see everything is forming very well. The supports is intact, nothing or any sign of failure. And check this out. Normal exposure is 0.2 seconds for 0.02 millimeters or 20 micron. And this is very amazing. First test on full plate, looks very good. I have cleaned up the prints and it looks very good. These are all the test prints. Let us have a closer look. First, I want to talk about the 0.2 exposure on Mini 8K-S. I was wrong because I did further investigation by record the exposure and then check it frame by frame. And also at the same time, FauxHammer reached out to me because he's seen my shorts video on YouTube. So I asked him to also reconfirm my findings. And our conclusion is Mini 8K-S cannot do exposure under 1 second. So thank you FauxHammer for your help, and you guys should check out FauxHammer channel too. I will put the link down below. Now let's have a look at this Phrozen exposure finder here. I'm still on Chitubox beta, so the top here are closed, and whenever I try to reslice, no matter how many times, it's still closed. But this is not the interesting thing. On the left is 50 micron, on the right is 30 micron, and both are print at 1 second exposure. If you look at the in general here, I cannot see any difference at all. The only difference that I could find is at this object here. On 30 micron, it seems slightly overexposed here and over here. And unfortunately, I cannot go lower than 1 second exposure. The same with my exposure tester. This is a new version. I will make another video to talk about this. I cannot fail this. Even I have printed with 1 second exposure, and this is at 50 micron. This is at 30 micron. If you look at this Phrozen RP tester, I cannot see any difference at all. If you see any difference, please tell me in the comment section. So I reached out to Table Flip Foundry and used their cone of calibration. On the failure side, this is 50 micron, sorry, this is 30 micron. On the failure side, the result is the same. On the success side, the result is also the same. And both layer height at print at 1 second exposure. But if you look at my other test print in this video later, I do not find any issue at all by printing 50 micron and 30 micron at 1 second exposure. Now let's have a look at this stability torture. This is an example why I don't really like a single rail printer. This is from my old Hello 1. And here's the first test for the stability torture on Mini 8K-S. If you look at a certain angle here, you could see we have a slight wobble. Here the fine line. I know, I'm sorry, but it is very hard to capture the wobble, but I can see it clearly on hand here. Yeah, you could see a very fine wobble line here. Here and then over here. It is repetitive from the bottom right all the way to the top. And this is the very first stability torture test that I print on Mini 8K-S. Now look at this second stability torture test that I done after I print several other test print models, and the wobble lines are gone. So I would assume after several test print, the loop spread very well on the lead screw and the linear rail, and it get rid of the wobble lines. See, no longer any trace of wobble lines at all, which is a good thing because usually I get very anxious with single rail printer because of the wobble lines issue, but it seems Mini 8K and the very wide linear rail seems to perform very well for the stability torture test. I'm sure some of you have watched my video about Mini 8K flaw where it cannot perform anti-aliasing on the x-axis. So everything that faces x-axis still suffer FOX lines even if you turn on the anti-aliasing on Mini 8K. And this is the anti-aliasing test on Mini 8KS. Both sides showing voxels because the anti-aliasing is off. And this is the print result: anti-aliasing 2, gray 0, image blur 2. There is no trace of voxels at all on both axes. So the anti-aliasing works perfectly on Mini 8KS. And now let's compare Mini 8KS on the left and Mini 8K on the right. Can you guys see any difference? Because honestly, I cannot tell the difference at all. And the only difference that I could tell is this voxels because this side is facing x-axis. But in general, I think the quality is the same, both Mini 8KS and Mini 8K. Now, if I don't show you which is which, can you tell which print is from Mini 8KS and from Mini 8K? So on the left is Mini 8KS, on the right is Mini 8K. Because from this distance, I cannot see any difference at all. So let us have a closer look on the head sculpt. Now this is a close-up look for the head sculpt. On the left Mini 8KS, on the right Mini 8K. Let me know if you guys see any difference at all, because I cannot tell the difference. At the very top here is a 0.3mm mesh, 0.2 and 0.1. And on the left is Mini 8KS, on the right is Mini 8K. The 0.1 mesh on both printer actually successfully printed, but maybe from the washing process and the drying process, they experience some shrinkage and it breaks apart at the 0.1mm mesh. So I'd say both have a very great result for printing a very fine mesh model. So I scaled down this mare, the foot soldier. The height is only 8mm. On the left is Mini 8KS and on the right is Mini 8KS. Sorry. On the left is Mini 8KS, on the right is Mini 8K. And on both prints, I could see the eyes details is still very sharp. And on the Mini 8K, I have some slight holes here, and it is very normal because it is very thin, only like 0.1mm thickness. Even if the fur detail is fading, you could still tell the shape of the fur here. So this is very awesome from the result of these two printers. Let's look at this letter test here. On the left is Mini 8KS, on the right is Mini 8K. Yes, we already know that the anti-aliasing doesn't perform very well on Mini 8K. And focus on the smallest letter here. The width of the gap here is only 0.1mm. On this letter test print, what do you guys think? Aside from the anti-aliasing issue on Mini 8K, the print result on this smaller letter here, which one do you guys prefer, the Mini 8KS or the Mini 8K? And on these extrude letters, I could say that I can read better on the Mini 8KS letter here. It seems form the holes at the center of the A much better compared to Mini 8K. On the left is Mini 8KS, on the right is Mini 8K. Yep, what is interesting is I could see the letters on Mini 8KS print much more clear compared to Mini 8K result. But this could be due to the flaw of the anti-aliasing on Mini 8K. Now let us check for the dimensional accuracy. This is on the y-axis. Okay. Okay. Can I say it's perfect? Let's wiggle it a bit. Yep, it seems perfect at 20 millimeters. And the x-axis, okay, spot on, also at 20 millimeters. And I print this cube at 30 micron at 1 second exposure. Now let's look at this bike model here. On the left is Mini 8K-S and on the right is Mini 8K. In general, I cannot tell the difference at all. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. The only thing I could point out is nothing. When I print these two steering wheels, on the left on Mini 8K-S, on the right on Mini 8K, I purposely bump the printer and see will it have any effect on the print result. First, on Mini 8K, the result is smooth, no issue at all. And this is the advantage of dual rail printer. And here we could see I have a harsh print line here. I'm sure this is because I bumped the printer when it's printing. And yes, this is the disadvantage of single rail printer. But overall, the result is very good as long as you do not bump into Mini 8K-S during the printing. Usually when I'm about to do a review for printer, I would post on my social media asking that if people want to have their model test print on the printer that I'm about to review, and these are two models that I chose to test print. And this is very great model here. And also I love how Mini 8K-S is able to capture the teeth detail here, or the sharp fangs, and also the details of the skull. And also kudos to the sculptor here. He knows how to make details print to coming out like this, even at this scale compared to my fingers here. And next is this, I'm not sure, maybe tails models. And each strand is about 0.3 millimeters thick, and I put it in an orientation so I only have supports at the bottom here, and all the furs are printed very nice on Mini 8K-S. And I do not see any fur breaks at all. Print at 50 micron, 1 second exposure. If you like what you are watching so far, kindly subscribe to my channel and like this video. And if you want to support my channel directly, you could check my Patreon link in video description. At first glance, it seems Mini 8K-S has a very powerful UV light because it can print 50 micron at 1 second exposure. But all my test print here are printed at 3 micron with 1 second exposure, except for this test print that I post the short video. This is at 0.02 millimeter layer height or 20 micron. And also except for this fur model and the 50 micron exposure calibration models. And the same layer height and the same exposure on Mini 8K. In general, both has the same level of details, but it is really hard to say because Mini 8K has anti-aliasing flaw and Mini 8K-S anti-aliasing works really well. And on most of my printer review, it seems that anti-aliasing gives a better detailed print because it gets rid of the voxels that could ruin the details with pixelation. And here are my print settings for 30 micron and 50 micron on Mini 8K-S. So, in my opinion, the only disadvantage that I could find from Mini 8K-S is from the single rail. Be careful not to bump the printer during its printing. But considering it is half the price of Mini 8K-S, I think I can live with the single rail. Especially, it passed my second stability torture test. And that is all my tests for Mini 8K-S. See you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching. Thank you Amara the Silent, Tratox, Justin Chang, Michael Lesiak, Stefan Bock, Will Fraser, and Proxy War Gaming for becoming my patron. A little tips for you guys. If you experience something like this, especially at the back of your models, this is not part of the models, and it happens because you have dirt or floaters or debris in your resin, so you might want to filter your resin to get rid of this dirt or floaters or debris.